26.2 miles, 46,520 steps, each one earned. What's good? It's Rob Cressy. And less than 24 hours ago, I just completed the Clearwater Marathon, and I wanted to unpack my experience and lessons learned. And I'll do so formulaically, starting at the top from why in the world I did this, my training, all the way to race day, to the post-race sauna village, to how I am feeling today. And all along the way, I'll give you some insight into both my process as well as my mindset into these things, because there's a lot of growth related to this because it was a very challenging experience. So let's start at the top. Why? Why in the world did I run the Clearwater Marathon? And it actually starts more than 2.5 months ago, when at the end of 2023, I was looking and it's November. And I was like, you know what? I want to guarantee that I finish this year strong. It's separation season, November and December around the holidays. Boom. How can I do that? At the same time, I want to create a rocket ship of momentum to start the year in January. So I was like, well, great. I'll sign up for a marathon because by design, I will have to be dialed in, because I know in my training, I'm going to be running for 10, 12, 14, 20 miles. And this will create an energy and a pulse naturally for me. And this is what I call designed momentum, where I said, you know what? I want to be amazing. I want to be a champion at the end of the year and the beginning of the year. So let me go and design something hard to do. So that was really my origin of it, because I knew for 2.5 months I was going to be dialed in. At the same time, one of the things that's important to me that I learned from Jesse Itzler being part of his Build Your Life Resume community was a Misogi. And a Misogi is something that you do once a year that is so hard or challenging or memorable that the benefits of it, you completing it, last the other 364 days. Because imagine every single year of your life, you doing something super memorable. It doesn't have to be running a race. It could be anything. You could learn something new. You could teach your child how to swim. Something where you look back on that year and you're like, man, I remember this. Well, imagine doing that every year of your life for the rest of your life. That's how you create an epic life. So for me, I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to commit to the Clearwater Marathon being my Misogi for 2024. So not only did I design the momentum in, I then stamped this bad boy and said, listen, this is a thing that really matters, and I'm going all in on this. I know there's a journey to this because this is hard. And for context, I have run 2 previous marathons. Anybody who knows my journey knows it's been a very interesting one, to say the least. So that is why I decided to run the Clearwater Marathon. So earned confidence. This is something that's important for me because I want to consistently be doing hard things to earn my confidence, because I know both entrepreneurship and life is a series of obstacles and adversities, many of which you cannot see yourself. So by design, doing hard things, you get comfortable being uncomfortable. That way, when life throws you a curveball, boom, I've been here before, I can handle this. When it comes to the training, I'm very formulaic about this. I'm someone who is an athlete, but not somebody who has a cross-country background. So I'm going to say, all right, I've got a 2-year-old child. Fitness and well-being is a big part of my life. How can I create a training program that serves me, that also allows me to be put into a position to succeed, to excel on race day? And with all of this, there's a few things that are really game changers. Number one, I use the run-walk method, something that I learned from Jesse. I believe there's a guy named Jeff Galloway. He's got a book who pioneered this method. And essentially, here's what I do. I run for a mile, and then I walk for 30 seconds or a minute or to that light post. And what this allows you to do is actively recover as you're running. Previously in my old life, when I used to be internally competitive, not trying to win races, but me versus a time, I always wore as a badge of honor that I will never walk. And this is something that once I got to this new frequency, completely changed my experience of running, got me to enjoy running because I wasn't redlining the whole time. It's run a mile, walk, run a mile, walk, run a mile, walk. So with this, I actually have a strategy both in how I'm training as well as for race day, because the active recovery, yeah, it works in every single mile, but also once you complete your runs, your body is less taxed because you were able to actively recover the entire time. So my training was simple. I'd run 3 days a week with a long run on the weekends. During the week, it was traditionally 3 or 5, a 3-mile run, a 5-mile run, and then starting at 10 miles, because I can run 10 miles pretty consistently, just at least where I am in fitness right now. So I went 10 miles, 12 miles, 14 miles, 16 miles, 20 miles. And the reason there's no 18 is because my son brought home with him a cold from preschool that I ended up getting, knocked me out for 10 days to where I couldn't train. That was during my 18-mile training. So I just jumped from 16 to 20 because what is most important is getting your sea legs under you and mentally getting those distances in so that you can visualize this and all right, I'm prepared. So once you get to 20, boom, I'm good. I got 26.2. So that's what my training was like. I would do the long runs on Fridays. And the reason I would do them on Fridays instead of Saturdays is because I wanted to have a good weekend with my wife. I know that, hey, she's working on Friday, I'm working on Friday, but I can sort of move things and do things when I want. So I would wake up at, 4:47 in the morning and be doing a long run between 5:45 and 6 a.m. every Friday. And that was my training. So let's get to race day. And race day, I was up at 4:15 a.m. because the race was about an hour and 10 minutes away from me in Clearwater. And in that morning, what I ended up doing was rereading my book notes to David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, because I knew I was about to go through a grit fest. I wanted to tap into that dark side. I wanted to tap into my cookie jar and really be a champion of mental toughness. So boom, sitting there priming my mind the right way. Once I got up to Clearwater, I've got to give a big shout out to everybody in the All Day Running Company community, something that I've been a part of for years, from Build Your Life Resume to 30 Days of Excellence to the Big Ass Calendar Club to now All Day Running Company with Jesse Itzler's community. There's so many people up there that I met that were old friends where we got to embrace and be champions for each other. There was new friends that we met up there. There's people that we've met online but haven't interacted before, and everything in between. There is so much love in this community, and it's the number one thing that stands out. Shout out to everybody that I had conversations with. I loved talking to each and every one of you. So let's get to the course and the race itself. The Clearwater Marathon course is one of, if not the best courses that I've ever run. And it's very simple. Number one, it's along the water. And then number two, you run through a bunch of mansions. So visually and scenically, super awesome. There are, when you do the marathon, 6 bridges. It's 3 of them, and then you do 2 loops. You do 2 loops of 13 is how it works. So let's formulaically break down each of these miles. So for the first 5 miles for me, no music, no podcast, no nothing. I was just soaking in my environment, self-creating myself, speaking declarations, visualizing, just eating it all up. One of the very unique things is because I do the run walk method and I walk every single mile, at mile 1, at mile 2, I was walking. So it's something that there's a confidence in yourself for your own strategy that I was like, listen, on all my training runs, I walked on mile 1. So just because I'm in a race and there's people all over the place doesn't mean that I'm not going to walk like my strategy says, because really where it pays off is on the back end, not the front end. And so many people go into a race either with 1, no strategy, or 2, they come out of the gates blazing. And if you're running for multiple hours, you want to be able to conserve your energy and be wise about how you are doing this stuff. So once I got to the 5 mile mark, this is where I would start to listen to podcasts. And this is part of all of my long training runs is when you're running for this long, let's use this as an opportunity to grow. So I listened to an Arte Syndicate podcast with Ed Milet on maximizing your potential. And then after that, I listened to the next one in the sequence from Andy Frisella, also about maximizing your potential. So this obviously was by design because I'm doing something where I'm maximizing my potential and I'm earning my confidence and I'm earning my greatness. Boom, let me start dripping more of you're that dude. Here's how you can get better, untap everything. So that was great for me because that was about, I don't know, an hour and a half or 2 hours of Andy and Ed, which got me probably to the halfway mark of the race. With all of this, I've got to give a major shout out to my support team, my wife, my son, and my wife's parents. They were there. They met me 4 times, mile 7, mile something else. All I know is it was 4 times because my brain eventually got scrambled when I was running. I couldn't tell you what miles I saw them. I just saw them. But seeing my son run up to me on each one of those breaks was just such a blessing. Getting the support, even if just for a minute, means so much because it resets your brain. It re-anchors in, why are you doing this? Because for me, one of the reasons why I'm running a marathon is to show my son what is possible for himself. Not that he needs to run a marathon, but he can do this. Plus, how I am showing up as a father, being the best version of myself and being that mirror for my son, because I am all in on being my best and creating my best life. And as part of that, boom, I'm an example for my son that he can do anything. So he's going to see a version of me where he's like, wow, I can really do anything that I want. And I want to support that in him every step of the way. So much love to my support team. So once we got to mile 13, the marathoners keep going. The people who are doing the half marathon, they go into the village where they're going to run through and finish their race. And this is where the herd really thins out. And I want to say there was around a quarter of the people who were running, 75% were doing the marathon or the half marathon. Maybe a quarter of them were just doing the regular marathon or the full marathon. So when you see the marathoners go, man, what went from a crowd all around you thinned out very quickly and very noticeably. And when I was going through this and noticing the people, these are the champions. These are the people who are about to go through the Grit Fest. And by no means does that not mean that people who are doing a half marathon aren't champions, because they are. This is just a different journey. I've been in both places. I've run plenty of half marathons. It's a challenge. It's a huge accomplishment, no matter how many times you've done this, from your first time to your 100th time. It's amazing. But there was something different that activated in me when I'm looking around at the other people doing this really hard 26.2 mile marathon journey. So boom, we're all in for the Grit Fest. And I'm dialed in mentally for this, because this is where the first 13 miles, boom, I got that. I can do that in my sleep, at least with this level of training. I know probably on the back half of this race, this is where things are going to get dark. So once again, I mentioned there are 6 bridges in total. So I've already accomplished 3 of them. At mile 13, boom, there's the first bridge there. And I've got a mindset for bridges. And what it is that I will always run up the bridge, because the bridge isn't a flat bridge. It's a freaking hill that looks like a bridge so that big boats can go under it. And it's natural to want to walk up the bridge because it's hard. But guess what? I didn't sign up for a marathon to walk on the hardest part. By design, I specialize in the hardest parts. Why? Because of what it teaches me about myself. There is an extra level inside of me that I'm willing to tap into that creates my earned confidence. It's no shade on anybody walking up that bridge, but I am not that everybody. I'm the one who's going to be running up that bridge, and I don't care how slow I'm going. I am running up that thing one step at a time, and this is a mindset. This is a standard This is a level of excellence, and this is how I create greatness in my mind. Do I want to run up that bridge? No. Challenging. It's terrible. It's hard. But guess what? When the times are the toughest, that's when I'm going to prove to myself who I am. So boom, I'm up that bridge. And of course, once you get up there, you create your own momentum because eventually you go down that bridge and you're like, I got this. 6 of these bad boys. So let's get to mile 20, because once we get to mile 20, this is when things start to get real, because up to this point, I've trained 20 miles for running, and now the final 6.2. All right, well, you're just going to create that. That's your new long run. And I'm actually going to move to mile 22 because this is when the race changed. This is when it goes from hard to, all right, time to tap into that dark side, because it gets really hard, because at mile 22 is the final bridge. And interestingly enough, the mile marker for 22 starts at the bottom of the bridge. Why this is of note to me is because when I'm doing the run walk method, I'm legitimately only running from mile marker to mile marker. So from 4 to 5, once I get to 5, then I walk. From 13 to 14, when I get there, then I walk. So in the instance, or at least for my strategy, from mile 21 to 22, boom, once I hit that mile marker, I'm then going to walk. But that's the start of a bridge. I'm not about to start walking up the bridge just because I hit my mile marker. So what I ended up doing was I saw on the horizon where mile marker 22 was, and right before I would get onto the start of the bridge, I did my walk saying, all right, time to end this race, this final bridge like a champion, because I wanted to continue my strategy because it works for a reason. And my mindset getting up that bridge was get to that sign, get to that light post, get to that light post, get to that light post, just step after step after step. And these little micro goals and these micro visions and victories, slowly you just get your way up that bridge. And then when you think you're at the top of the bridge, you realize you're not at the top of the bridge. There's even more to go at the top of the bridge, because you feel every single one of those little undulations up until you're plateauing, and then you eventually go back down the bridge. And it was something that definitely was the most challenging part of the entire race up until that point. So get there, boom. Get to mile 23, and I have never been more excited to see the number 23. I mean, I love Michael Jordan and everything, but holy smokes, I'm like, woo, I can finally walk for a little bit here. And my mindset for how I finish races has definitely evolved. For anyone who hasn't seen it or knew the experience, probably 8 or 9 years ago, I had a near-death experience running the DC Marine Corps Marathon, where I passed out with a heat stroke of 107 degrees on the course and almost died. And I could see the finish line, and then boom, next thing you know, I'm packed head to toe in ice. So knowing that I went through that experience, went near death, had an awakening from all of this of like, I made this through, I'm here to live my life on an even higher level. Now I think a little bit differently about the end of races, because for me, having a family, no longer running for time. For me, it's only about finishing. I know the last 3.6 or the 3.2 miles, yes, are going to be challenging, but my goal is just to finish. So I'm now playing the balance between mental toughness and enjoying myself and getting to the finish line. And when mile 23 hit, I wouldn't say that I hit a wall, because I didn't hit a wall, but mentally, my mind went to mush is the best way I can describe it, because going up and down that hill and running on it, or the bridge, running it just really taxed my body, so much so that my left thigh, I could feel it about to seize up. And I knew if my thigh seized up with a cramp, I was in big time trouble, because the rest of my body was probably going to go with it, because as you can imagine, you feel it when you're at mile 23. So I had to do everything in my power to one, not stop, two, to not do anything remotely out of the ordinary, because at that point, your body's so used to a rhythm. So even if you have like an itch on your leg, you try and go and touch that thing, one weird step can just cause that thing to go in. And with all of this, this is where I'm really saying, all right, stick to my strategy. In my mind, wanted to immediately allow the bitch voice to have the most noise, where I was going to say, you know what, Rob, don't follow that strategy of running and then walking and running and then walking. Like, just do for you. And it was really a tug back and forth of like, hey, just sort of throw away what I've been doing versus listening to the pain. And what I ended up doing is I continued my run walk method, but I just shortened. It was no longer from mile to mile, because now the larger goal is just to get to a mile. Instead, I said, all right, I'm walking to that light post, and then I'm running to that fire hydrant, and then I'm walking from that fire hydrant to that bird, and then I'm running from that bird to past those three people. So I shortened the gap in all of this to free myself up mentally to be able to continue to go and do this and enjoy it at the same time. And once we get to mile 24, holy smokes, once again, these miles are ticking off like it's game 7 in the third period of the Stanley Cup final, and your team has a 1-goal lead with about 3 minutes left. I was like, my goodness, this has taken forever to get to this point. And at mile 24, I said to myself, I want to enjoy this. I'm smiling more, and at the same time, I'm pushing myself. And thankfully, my body did not seize up, but I could no longer listen to music. I'd created a curated marathon hip hop playlist that is a banger. Boom, you hear that stuff and it gets me going. But my mind was so, I'm just going to keep saying, like, mentally taxed, that I couldn't even listen to music anymore because I needed to focus on literally just the next step so that my body would not continue to seize up, because it didn't. So now this is completely me versus me in my mind, one step at a time, light post to light post, light post to light post. And at the same time, anchoring in gratitude and enjoyment, because I know, boom, I'm on this home stretch. I've got 2.2 miles to go. I'm right along the ocean. I was like, this is everything that I've been training for 2.5 months for. So it's a very unique experience to train for something for 2.5 months and be all in. And at the same time, go through the most painful, challenging part of this, which is by design, part of the journey and why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm thinking about my 3-year vivid vision. I'm thinking about my son and my wife and my family. I'm thinking about the amazing boats and mansions that I'm seeing going through all this. And all this is going on at the same time while I am mentally and physically emptying the tank as much as I humanly can. So boom, mile 24, eventually I get it to there. And then we get to mile 25. And this is something that I learned from being a part of Jesse Itzler's community. And it is, the last mile is free. You earned that last mile. You get to mile 25, boom, that is your mile. And with this, I said, you know what? I'm enjoying this entire mile. And once again, I continued the same strategy. Walk, run to that post. Walk, run to the mailbox. All the while, I'm visualizing, I'm anchoring in myself the most important, the biggest goals that I've got in my entire life, because this is where champions earn their confidence, their greatness. And we always hear about the power of visualization, and the more familiar you are with your dreams, the more you will be attracted to them and they will manifest in your life. So for me, I'm like, boom, let me take my Misogi, the biggest thing that I'm doing this year, and anchor from a visualization standpoint everything that I'm creating in my life and am right now. And it's something that is a conscious technique for this. And as we get to the last corner right there, And there were some friends who gave me high fives. And I know I'm about to see my wife and my son and my wife's parents and everybody who's there supporting the race. Shout out to my guy, Matthew Scaletti. He was there. I saw him. And this is the final 0.2. This is the culmination of 2.5 months of work and mental toughness and grit and everything that you want. And I just sit there, and every single time I do a training run, 100 times out of 100, whether it's 3 miles or 20 miles, I end at the end of my street where there's a stop sign and there's a crosswalk. And there's 2 white lines for the crosswalk. And I always visualize that being my finish line. So every time I cross that, I always put my number ones up, my fingers on both hands, and I raise them above my head every single time. So when I'm about to cross that finish line of the Clearwater Full Marathon, boom, those number ones are up, and I've done that hundreds of times. And that's my experience in running the Clearwater Marathon. They give you your big medal, which I've got right here, and this thing is heavy, so it's around your neck, but you earn it. And the best way that I could describe when I finished the marathon is that my pain level in my legs and my body was a 10 out of 10. My ability to talk or process people or information was like a 1 out of 10, to where I just like had to sit on the ground and be by myself to live in the discomfort is the best way that I can describe it. And one of the things that I've been very intentional about, that I think about and I channel David Goggins. And after every one of the 14, 16, 20-mile training runs, and then again for the marathon, when you're done, what is the reward that you get for when you're done doing one of these training runs? Well, your reward is your legs and body being on absolute fire, where you can barely stand up, where you are in pain. And for many people, this is where their bitch voice will come out of, like, oh my God, why is this happening? But with David Goggins, this is where the earned confidence comes in, because you earn the right to feel this level of pain in your body, because so much of the world and so much of life is designed around comfort. So let's do the complete opposite of that. Empty the tank physically and mentally, where you sit there and you say, I have nothing left in me. I gave it everything. And my reward is getting to sit in the pain and the discomfort, because so few other people get to experience this other than other champions. And boom, every single one of these times, it immediately reframes my brain. Doesn't mean that it's comfortable when I'm experiencing it, but while I'm experiencing it, I'm like, boom, this is what champions get to experience and feel. So eventually, I get up, meet my wife. Oh, I already met her, but I'm in my own zone. And we go to the post-race sauna village put on by All Day Running Company. And one of the fun things about being part of Jesse Itzler's communities is Jesse loves experience. So he's always designing things and making it very inclusive. So in the post-race village, they've got these 2 massive saunas that are on wheels that I estimate fit 10 to 12 people. And you go in there, I brought a change of clothes, so I'm in a bathing suit, go in there for a post-race sauna. And then there's also, I guess, 5 massive cold plunges. And anybody who knows anything about Jesse's community, they love saunas, they love cold plunges. So I go from sauna to cold plunge. And of course, there's a part of your bitch voice that says, I don't want to be in a cold plunge. That is cold and terrible. And you just went through this very mentally taxing experience. This is what you're about to do. So of course, it's another opportunity to prove what you're made of, because 100 times out of 100, getting into a giant cold plunge is cold. But for me, I think about life experiences. Once again, discomfort. And I want to sit in that cold plunge after running a marathon as part of Jesse's community because this is part of the experience. Every single part of it is designed around getting the best experience for you. Sauna, hot, cold, marathon, just emptying the tank. It's just like, it's a completely immersive experience. While at Sauna Village, I did see Jesse Itzler. He did run the full marathon. Shout out to Jesse. He was behind me because he was emceeing at the beginning, and saw him. And right before I was about to leave, went and dapped him up, showed him some love. Jesse's been great to me over the years, and my wife and son were with us in Sauna Village. So Jesse went and met my wife, Rachel. And one of the things that I love to do is I audit everybody. I can learn from anybody and anything. But Jesse, being who he is, he meets so many people, so many individuals like me or my wife or my son, just nonstop. That is his life. And in our conversation, when it was just Jesse and I, we were talking about how I moved from Chicago to Sarasota because Sarah's family, I believe, lives down in Clearwater. So there's like a connection there. And then when he went over to meet my wife, Rachel, I observed Jesse asking a question around, oh, so you guys moved from Chicago to Sarasota. And it's a small inch, but it's a massive one of what a master communicator and relationship builder does. So even though Jesse had never met my wife before, he took information that we had a conversation about a minute ago, brings it over, and immediately has something to talk to her about and ask her about. And it's just something that I wanted to share this with you because this is what I'm observing about the best in the world, where he's using his active listening. He genuinely wanted to meet my wife. And it's like, oh, my wife's over there. He's like, oh, let me go meet her. It was such a genuine thing. And it's what makes Jesse a one of one in this world. He's at the top. He just does things at the highest level. And at the same time, he comes from such a good place. So much love to Jesse and everybody in the All Day Running Company community and team. So now let's get to the last part, the day after. How am I feeling right now? And the best way that I would describe this is I am walking like a baby deer on ice. That every part of my legs and body is challenged and sore right now in the best way possible. Sitting down, whether in a chair or to go to the bathroom, I have to brace with both hands. And I'm walking wobbly. And it's incredible. And I love this because this is part of the journey, because you get to feel like this the next day, because otherwise it wouldn't be why it is. This marathon journey, this Musogi, that if it was easy, everybody would do this. So once again, living in this discomfort is one of the reasons why we do this, because you get to earn your day after. And for me, the most logical thing that I can do is share with others my journey that I just went on, to say, hey, if I can do it, so can you. And this is how you can design momentum in your life. And I guess as we wrap a bow on this, I've got a few thoughts or questions or intentions for you. Number one, what are you doing this year that you are going to remember that is going to create an epic life for yourself? Do you have a Musogi? If so, let me know. Hit me up on social media at Rob Cressy, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. What's that thing that is going to define your year this year? If you don't have one, great. This is the ding, 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 the light bulb for you to say, here's an opportunity. You can do something epic this year. So what is that for yourself? Because number two, what are you doing to design momentum in your life? That this is actually a tool in your creator tool belt where you can look around and say, what would I love to create more of in my life? Great. Let me design momentum around that. What's that look like? And then you just reverse engineer it. So now you can literally have the rest of your life all be around design momentum. All it takes is intention, awareness, consistency, and action. Make it all happen. And then the next thing would be health and well-being. What are you doing right now to invest in your health and well-being? It doesn't mean you need to run a race, but I know for so many people, we see these ebbs and flows if I'm going to the gym or I'm working out or I'm doing yoga or I'm doing stretching or not. Let this be some words of inspiration for you that if I can do any of this, so can you. Start your journey. One day at a time, I create this micro fitness mindset of like, what's just one thing that you can do that'll get you on the right path to health and well-being? And if you're someone who's been crushing it and very consistent, my challenge for you would be, what could you do to take this to the next level? So thank you for being a part of my journey. I'm always going to do everything that I can to create and live an epic life. And then when I do, I'm going to share my lessons learned, both the good and bad with me, because there's definitely vulnerable moments in my mindset, but at the same time, this is the mindset of a champion that everyone thinks that, oh, Rob, you've run marathons before, this must be easy. No, 100% not. That, what was there? 46,520 steps. Every single one of them is earned. There's nothing easy about that. There's nothing easy about jumping into a cold plunge 100 times out of 100. And I'm actually going to end with this. So I legitimately do not care about whatever time I get for the race. That when I ran the Pittsburgh Marathon 2 years ago, I never looked to see what my time was. And my wife, I was driving her to the airport this morning, and she's like, well, Rob, what did you run the Pittsburgh Marathon in? I was like, I have no idea. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I never looked. She's like, what? And a lot of people naturally ask, well, what did you run? What was your time? And I even got text messages yesterday, and I was like, I don't know. I never looked. And I actually found out what I ran from my sister, who texted me. And I ran the Clearwater Marathon in 4 hours and 48 minutes and 53 seconds. So when I'm driving my wife to the airport, she's like, well, you track all of this on your Apple Watch, right? I was like, yeah. She's like, well, there's a record of that somewhere. I'm going to go and see what you ran the Pittsburgh Marathon in. I ran the Pittsburgh Marathon in 4 hours, 49 minutes, and 37 seconds. So to put this into perspective, doing the run walk method 2 years apart, Clearwater, 4:48:53, Pittsburgh, 4:49:37. There was only a 47-second difference between my Pittsburgh Marathon and my Clearwater Marathon. And to me, that is both bananas as well as the greatest testament to the power of consistency. Just boom, day after day, step after step. You're telling me 46,520 steps, and somehow I was able to run a marathon unconsciously within 47 seconds of the one that I had previously done? I have no idea what lessons in here. I've shared some of them, but to me, this is just completely bananas. And I guess I just learned what I ran both of those marathons in, even though it's really of no interest, because for me, it's all about the journey, the earned confidence, and completing the Musogi. So, really excited about 2024. It's going to be the best year ever for me, the best year ever for you too. So if you enjoy this, you have any thoughts, lessons learned, things that stood out to you, hit me up, rob@robcressy.com, or hit me up on all social media platforms @RobCressy. Sending tons of good vibes your way. Hope you have yourself an amazing rest of the day.